Welcome back. Today we're going to be refinishing a beautiful antique dining table for this space that, in case you can't tell, is a disaster. What a great Facebook Marketplace find, and it only costs $20. And a few days later, I found a set of 4 Pottery Barn chairs. That brings us to a grand total of $120 for this now made-up dining set. I'm gonna put in the labor to transform this space under a budget, and let's get busy decluttering because I need to make this more inviting. Welcome to my home's basement. And in case you're wondering, how did your space get to be such a mess? Let me explain. If you ever watch furniture refinishing videos and see behind the scenes, you'll notice that we all have a place in our home where we store or staging prompts like lamps, rugs, baskets. This has been that place for me. Now, I have been wanting to make this space what it was meant to be. Perhaps an area where I can sit down and have coffee. However, I knew that the table needed to be narrow because we need to be able to go in and out the sliding door that leads into our backyard. Consequently, when I saw this table, I took it as a sign that it was time to tackle the downstairs once and for all. We also have a full-size bathroom, a bedroom, walk-in closet, and even a living room area. It's a great space to host, or in the future, I might even consider renting it out. Detaching the leaves is gonna make it easier to reach into all the spaces that need to be sanded. I'm just gonna label this side with the corresponding leaf. Make it easier when I'm putting everything back together. Something that I found out about working with antiques over time is that sometimes even using the wrong screw can make it challenging when you want to put the piece back together. That's why I like to use a piece of tape to keep the screws with a matching hinge. There are some scratches that are on the deep side. Since I don't want to risk over sanding trying to get rid of them, I'm gonna use the furniture stripper first and then finish it off with my orbital sander. Most of the damage is in the middle section, but regardless, we're gonna follow the same procedure to refinish all 3 parts today. Today I'm using Green Easy. It is my favorite chemical stripper to use indoors because of its mild odor, and also it doesn't have the harsh chemicals that other products can have. I'm using a cheap brush to apply a generous amount over the tabletop. Depending on the weather or humidity levels, sometimes I might put a piece of plastic over the surface while I wait for Green Easy to do its job. Today's weather, though, seems to be ideal, so I'm just gonna wait the 40 minutes that's recommended after applying. The metal claws are beautiful. They're being held by 2 screws, 1 on each side. Of course, I have plans to put them back on. Before that happens, they need a good scrub. It's been about 40 minutes. So there you can see how the finish is lifting here. As far as I can tell, it looks like it's working really well. Here's the moment of truth, and I'm gonna be using a cardboard box to catch any top coat and stain remnants. So it's exciting when this happens. You guys heard that the older we get, the more stubborn we can be. I don't know if that's 100% true for every human out there, but I found that antiques can be pretty set in their ways. Sometimes in my mind, when I start working on one, I have to have plan A and plan B, and I kind of expect my patience to be tested. Is it possible that this table could be the exception? More to come. Green Easy also has its own cleaner, which by the way works great. And I'll use a 000 steel wool to scrub any residue. Once I'm done scrubbing, I'm gonna be wiping any leftover with a shop paper towel, followed by a final rinse with water. While I'm done scrubbing, let's talk a little bit about my vision for this lady. When I picked her up, I noticed the gray shape that the posts were in. And taking into consideration that the chairs have a dark and light color to them, I thought I could leave the posts in a dark color along with that little footrest and refinish the legs and the top in a lighter color. But was my idea way off? I decided to look online. As you know, two-tone dining table and chair sets often do come in a two-tone. But when applying the idea to this antique, it's going to be unique. And how exciting is that? I'm gonna be sanding these legs to bare wood and the top using 150 grit. In case some of you might be thinking at home, I have a dining table that I would like to tackle, but I don't have a fancy sander like yours. Great news, you don't need one. There are some great and very inexpensive options for you out there. And considering the hundreds and even thousands of dollars a dining table can cost you, $60 or $80 might not be that bad of an investment for you. Speaking of inexpensive tools that are worth it, here is another one, a carbide scraper that gets into the 90-degree angles. When I first bought it, I didn't think that I was gonna use it as often as I do. Remember that before we can stain any wood, it needs to be clean and dust-free. So I'm scrubbing the surface using mineral spirits. Since the tones in this mahogany wood are red, I need to tone them down using wood bleach. That way I can stain it with a neutral color. I'll be using a 2-step solution wood bleach from Sensor. If you're gonna order any wood bleach online, let this one to be the one because it's not as easy to find at the stores in person. I normally repeat this step a few times. Make sure you wear gloves. And my guess is gonna take at least 3 rounds. If you want to watch a step-by-step tutorial on wood bleaching, I'm going to be adding a video in the video description. I've used several wood bleaching products in the past, and in my humble opinion, this one has been the most effective. Day number 3 since I started working on this table, and yesterday I ended up applying a total of 3 rounds of that 2-step solution wood bleach. I'm going to be using 2 different stains to achieve this natural look that I'm hoping is going to match the seats on our chairs. And hopefully at the end, the chairs and the table look like they were always meant to be together. Sometimes the wood bleach can leave a white residue, so I like to give the surface a quick scuff sand using a 220 grit, followed by a quick wipe down with a damp cloth. One of the best practices when it comes to staining wood is to use a wood conditioner first. This is going to increase the chances of the stain taking evenly throughout the surface. So let's go ahead and apply a coat of the conditioner and then we can start staining. You're going to want to let the wood conditioner sit about 5 minutes before wiping off any excess. I do have to tell you that I'm a bit concerned right now because as I'm applying it, I'm noticing that the wood looks just as red and dark as it did before I apply any of the wood bleach treatments. This is one of those times where I tell myself to trust what I did and keep going. Since the conditioner needs to be absorbed by the wood grain for at least 30 minutes, we want to wait before staining. The first color I'm going to be using is Simply White by Minwax. I'm going to let it sit for a couple of minutes before wiping off. This is going to be my base color. It's right about now when I start questioning my life choices. Even though I apply the wood conditioner first, this top is looking patchy. Normally what I would do is apply the next color, which is a warm brown, over this. But since I'm a little worried about how the stain is taking, I'm just gonna wait 1 hour and see how it looks after. I'm gonna try and camouflage some of the unevenness in the top by adding a little bit of Early American into Simply White and apply another coat. I'm also hoping that this second coat is gonna add a little bit more warmth. That's much better. While this second coat dries, I'm gonna go to IKEA because there are a few things I want to buy to make the basement a little more rentable, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. And one of those things is a countertop piece to go on top the antique buffet you might have seen buried under all this stuff. Although the space is not going to be a full kitchen, I want to get as closest to it as I can. What I have in mind is a piece of MDF that looks like a piece of marble, because marble and dark wood antiques look great together. And it didn't take long for me to find exactly what I was looking for. The size was close enough to the top of the piece, so I'm taking it home. If you're a college student or if you're looking to rent a place in your home and have a burner, this is like awesome. Really taking one. It's worth the 60 bucks. I'm gonna give it a try. Another thing I decided to buy was a large size cutting board so that when people need to cut things, they don't cut through the MDF. Okay, it's been 48 hours since I've applied that custom color that looks more natural to the tabletop, and still the surface is looking very light. So I'm gonna add some warmth to the surface by applying a coat of gel stain here. The color Aged Oak is not as intense as gel stains normally would be because this one is a semi-transparent. I'm gonna be applying the gel stain also to the legs that I left dark in purpose. The gel stain is way thicker than your regular stain. So see the consistency, how thick it is? You might have to stir it for a couple of minutes so it gets a little bit more creamy and less clumpy. One thing about this stain is that it looks so much darker when you first apply it. I recommend waiting at least 1 hour before deciding if you need another coat. As for me, I'm very happy with the tone that I'm getting because I was not happy after applying that first coat of white stain. If I could go back, I would apply the custom mix color with white and early American from the Decor. Just a quick reminder that applying any stain and wiping it back in the direction of the wood grain is highly recommended. Can you see how much luster the gel stain is adding to the existing finish? I'm pretty happy with it. And I'm gonna let it sit overnight, but before ending the day, I'm gonna be scrubbing those brass claws with Bar's Keeper's Friend, and tomorrow I'm gonna be applying the top coat. I'm using a sock to apply this heavy-duty top coat from General Finishes called Arm R Seal because I can already predict some hot fluid, some spills on this surface, and I want to make sure it's protected. After letting it sit for a couple minutes, I come back with a shop paper towel and remove any excess. And I apply a total of 3 coats at least for tabletops, waiting an hour in between coats. Now, while the tabletop dries, I'm gonna keep cleaning the basement. There's a good chance that most of you have had summer-like weather for a long time, but I live in the state of Minnesota. Not only are our winters extremely cold, they can get very long, and summer, spring can struggle to get here sometimes. And this has been one of those years. So it's finally warm enough where I could leave the window open, take the plants outside that belong outside, and just clean everything out. Excuse me, lady. Excuse me. So in my efforts to make this space rentable, I thought about putting a fridge down here that was just the perfect size, nothing too big or too tiny small. And I found the perfect size over at Walmart. They were running a sale, so I think I spent $160 on it. They deliver it to my front step, which I thought it was amazing. I want to add a couple shelves above this buffet. I'm going to show you how I did that using the top of a different tabletop. You guys remember the IKEA finds? One of them was this electrical portable cooktop. I thought that the size was perfect. I like the minimalistic look. Before I can bring the table in, I noticed that there were a couple of things that needed to be taken care of, besides putting the leaves and the brass cloth feet back on. Obviously, I didn't sand or stain the bottom of the table. I'm gonna be conditioning the wood so it looks nice, shiny. And I do this by using steel wool. What you're gonna do is you almost wanna give the wood a scrub. The steel wool is just gonna open the wood grain enough to make sure that the restorative finish goes in the grain. Once you're done applying the restorative finish, you wanna grab a clean shop towel and just wipe off any excess. Can you see how much more shiny and healthy the wood looks down here? And this is all I need. We can finally bring the table in, not without a little bit of chaos, like knocking the plant, making sure we don't hit the door frame, and that the dog stays away. Now that the table is in, we're gonna start making some very inexpensive wood shelves. A few years ago, somebody gifted us a table. We didn't care for it except for the beautiful wood design on the top. What you're seeing is that top cut into smaller pieces. And it just so happens to be that it works out perfect for downstairs. They're not perfect, they need a little bit of filling here. And we need to add some edge banding to this. But first we have to fill in those holes. These holes are very big, so I'm going to be using quick wood for that. This product dries like a rock, so if you have larger gaps, this is highly recommended. Just going to take a chunk. You can see it's like a darker and lighter tan color. We're just going to mix it, and it's going to start feeling warm. That means it's activated. If it doesn't look pretty, it doesn't matter, because remember, we're going to be covering all of these with some edge banding. We're going to be letting everything dry for about half hour before sanding. To keep this project under budget, I have to be creative and think about different ways I can repurpose items. Otherwise, a single shelf similar in size can cost between $40 to $55. After a quick wipe down, they're ready to add edge wood banding. Make sure you have the cotton setting, and then all you're gonna need is your pre-glued edge banding. So I'm just gonna try to line it up. After the banding has been glued, I'm using an X-Acto knife to remove any extra. I found some heavy-duty shelf brackets. Amazon has some great ones. They're around $26 for a 6-pack. I'll add the link under the video description. And now I'm just adding some final touches to make the space look more homey. Before we can look at the entire space, let's remember where we started with our table. And here she is today. I think I might have achieved another Pottery Barn look without knowing, and I'm really, really loving the end result. I'm really glad I opted for a two-tone finish, but let me know in the comments, what would you have done? A two-tone or a one-tone throughout? And now that we've looked at the table, let's remember how this space started at the beginning of the video. And this is how it looks today. I cannot express how much peace I feel every time I walk in here. The space looks so much brighter now. The table looks and fits perfectly. And best of all, I stay under my $500 budget. I would love to invite you over and have a cup of coffee or tea and sit at the table. And you know that Luna would be joining us. I can't wait to read your comments about today's room revamp. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.